Hello, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to show you how to put new brake pads on a 2002 Ford Taurus on the left front. In an earlier video, I'll throw a link in the description, I did the front pads on the right side of the car. Furthermore, you can see where I'm using the floor jack. You don't have to do the same place, but it seems to work well. I'm going to use a jack stand. A jack stand's a must-do with taking the tower off the car, and it doesn't take much off the ground, just enough that you can get the tower and wheel off, and then we'll rest it on the jack stand and get the jack out of the way, and we'll remove the lug nuts, and we'll get the tower and wheel off. Yeah, a little secret there. I didn't. Sometimes I've even had to use a sledgehammer, but just hitting the tower with my foot broke it free and rusted fast to the rotor. Not uncommon in the salt belt climate in which I live, and cars used in the winter. Now we're going to take and remove the brake caliper. These are 12mm head bolts, and I'm going to loosen them both before I remove any completely. You can see the pads had a good bit of wear on them, but the rotor was rusted up, which scarred the pads, so I bought new rotors and brakes. I'm going to just change them both. But before I go further, I'm going to take this hook, this wire, and hang the brake caliper out of the way so it don't fall. And you don't want it to just hang with the flex hose. That's no good on the flex hose. And get it right in the hole where it bolted to the caliper bracket, and that will take care of that. Now we're going to remove the caliper bracket itself. These are 15mm heads, and these are tighter than the caliper bolts by far.
There we go.
Actually, due to the tightness, as you see, I'm using a bolt peen hammer first to initially break the bolts loose that hold the caliper brackets. And anyhow, that worked. It didn't take too much, but it just needed a little bit more than torque than what I could get with just the ratchet itself. And we get the other one turned out the whole way. And you can see it's ready to come off other than this last bolt removing these last couple threads, which it won't come out just turning by hand yet. It's being stubborn. It's sometimes you get those that want to turn out every last thread of the way, but yeah, there it does come finally. Now, if this rotor would not be shut and the rotor be needing to be replaced, you don't necessarily want to beat on the rotor with the hammer if you're going to reuse it, but it was rusted fast. And you can see one, the rust was built around it when I was using the hammer to get it loose on the car falling. And then you can just see how thin, especially the backside of it is just with the rust and such. And again, uncommon sight. Typical wore out brake rotor, another one for the junk collection. Now we're going to open the new rotor and get the new replacement out and get it prepared to install on the car. Most importantly, before installing the new rotor, they always come one in that plastic, and then they put like a protective coating like an oil on them so they don't rust. You want to wipe that oil off before you put the rotor on the car. I have the actual wax and grease remover. Works really good for the job, but also if you don't have that, lacquer thinner will work, or most any paint thinner. But yeah, use one rag, just again wipe it off real good, and then take a dry rag and go back over it, and that'll take care of all that oil film that was on it from shipping. I'm going to say that is good enough on getting the oil, the shipping oil off the brake rotor. Now dry just a little bit more, and I'm going to step back in the garage in the brake caliper bracket before I go farther where the brake pads sit. I'm going to take a coarse piece of sandpaper and sand this rust off so that when the new brake pads go on, they slide nice and smooth and they fit well. Personally, I believe this is where people do run into trouble when they put new brakes on a car and have them wear out prematurely. Is just little steps like this make all the difference in the world. Because again, if the new pads are still sticking, you're going to end up burning the brakes up prematurely before they would otherwise. Now I did two of the four places the pads sit, and I want to just turn the bracket around and sand the other two spots. Now I'm satisfied with that. Now I want to check the brake slides. You can see they are moving in and out nice. And there's the other one. And I'm just going to slide one out here and see what it does look like. But it still has grease on it and it's good shape. I'm not going to tamper with it since, again, it was working nice. The rubbers are sealing good around the brake slide itself. And, well, they're not rusted fast. Those can give you a fit. And now we're going to start with number one step now is slide the rotor back on the car. And the second step is the brake caliper bracket. Basically just reversal of the disassembly procedure, but I'm going to show you the steps anyhow. I always hate like when you read a repair book, you go through everything and then at the end it says assembly is just reverse of the disassembly. But that's sort of, again, I think a cheap way out of the answering people's questions. Now these brake caliper bracket bolts, I'm going to make them as tight as I can with the half-inch drive ratchet. But as far as if you want to be technical, but isn't real technical, the repair manual claims they're to be tightened between 65 to 85 foot-pounds, which is a pretty broad range. So again, in my opinion, tight as you can with the half-inch drive ratchet is satisfactory. And as you can see, the pads just slide right back into place nice and easy. No problem on that. And on this car, they're the same inboard and outboard. And that is not always the case, but in these Taurus on the front, there is no difference. And there's a close-up look where they should be resting in the caliper bracket. And again, just in case you have any doubts if you have yours on correctly, again, you can assemble it wrong or it won't go back together. Now we can put our brake caliper back on after we take and compress the brake caliper piston. This is a must-do step with the new pads or it's just not going to fit on. I actually have a disc brake spreader, they call it, for this job, but you can also, if you don't have one, you can substitute a C-clamp in place of it. And then again, still just use the same, just the wore out pad to press it back in instead of pressing directly against the brake caliper piston. And it should press in with not a lot of effort, or you have a problem with either the caliper or the brake flex hose. And now it's in as far as it can. I can take and just loosen the tool a little bit, and the tool's ready to fall right back out. Well, here, let me get to, there we go. It was being stubborn. And there you can see the caliper piston is flush with the caliper body itself when it's back into place. Now we can just take and swing it back down over the brake pads and over the caliper brackets. And you might have to push in a little bit on those brake caliper slides when you're putting it on so they clear like I'm doing right now. Or they'll get stuck and not allow the caliper to sit back in the place where it belongs. Also, you do not want to tighten either of the caliper bolts until you get them both started in, and then you can tighten them with the ratchet the rest of the way. And if you want to be a perfectionist, the book call for 23 to 28 foot-pound torque. I'm going to just make them tight as I can reasonably with 3/8 inch drive ratchets. Don't break them off, but again, we're not rebuilding a motor or anything. I'm not going to use a torque wrench. But again, if you are so inclined, you are welcome to, and you know the torque now. And now don't forget to remove the wire that you used to hang the brake caliper out of the way. Now we just have to reinstall the tire and the wheel. This car actually could use all new lug nuts. It's not my car, it's my cousin's, but that's why I'm having trouble. There's rust behind those chrome covers on it, and the socket's not fitting the best. But anyhow, they're back on. And I'm going to take and jack the car to subframe like I did when we started taking to change the brake pads, same spot, and just get it enough off the jack stand that we can remove the jack stand here after a couple pumps of the jack. Now I am going to torque the wheel lugs to 100 foot-pounds. With aluminum wheels, now I have had trouble on too tight, too loose, and I want to work loose. Or on the other hand, later down the road, you can't get them off. So I do not like aluminum wheels, but about 95% of the vehicles on the road now have them. So I've just sort of learned to torque the lug nuts. And one last important step is start the car. But before you go any place with the car, do not forget to take and pump the brakes back up, because when you push that caliper in with the brake caliper, the piston, you need to get it back out against the brake pads. And that concludes the job. I hope this helped you, and thank you for watching.